Okay, so now we are broadcasting live, so make sure to censor yourself if you're going to say anything incendiary. But yeah, if Craig is watching this or listening to this, if you want to join or if you didn't get the invite, let me know or send it to Allison. I just got something from me. I've just sent you going. So if Monique is watching this or listening, if you want to participate, I can send you an invite. So far, the only way I know how to do it is for me to manually send you an invite. So anybody listening to this who would like to participate, just send an invite to either TL Workspace or Allison. Somehow I'm logged into both of hers at the same time on this computer. So we'll hopefully see it in one or both places. Oh, got a message from Monique.
So can I make my screen the presenter?
Did you see? Well, never mind. Let me link to.
All right. I think I'm screen sharing.
Oh, are you?
Yeah. Does that mean you can't do what you need to do?
Let's see. Oh. Okay. Yeah. I think I do.
So that. Wait a minute. I think I shared the wrong kind of screen.
I think you can share a window. Because right now I think you're sharing everything.
So, what's your one?
Are you trying to do like a Chrome window? Okay. Maybe. Wait, no. Ooh.
All right, I think I see some faces down there at the bottom.
Yep, see Craig.
Do we have Craig and Monique here as well?
Yes, I'm just sitting in and I'll be quiet.
Oh, no need. Monique, I don't know if I've had a chance to meet you yet. I'm Allison. I work at Torrance Learning in Chelsea, Michigan.
Oh, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. And I joined this group a little bit after its inception. Had you already been to a couple meetings, or is this?
No, this is my first time, and I'm actually part of another group, and I'm just seeking to really understand and wrap myself around xAPI. And I thought, hey, listening to other groups and kind of listening to the different points of views and what's going on would help me, further my knowledge that much quicker. And I like what you guys were doing, too, because I used to work in education for Jostens Learning, and we work with schools a lot, so I could identify with your project.
Oh, good. Good.
Do you want me to send? I think I can set presenter.
Yeah. So I think Matt is the presenter right now. I think he has to pass the torch to me, and we can try to look at the checklist. One thing someone mentioned was a demo of the NFC to xAPI app, whatever it's called, that Matt made. Since we got a little bit of a late start, I wonder if we could table that part of the agenda till a different day. That I'm asking. I'm saying that.
I'm the one who made that suggestion, and I'm okay with tabling it.
Okay.
I received my tags this week, but I really haven't even done much more than pull one out of the bag and look at it yet. So, yes, I do have the code that was posted. Haven't looked at that yet either, but I have downloaded it, so that'll give me a chance to be more familiar before we do a demo, and I'm happy with that.
Okay, great. Thanks for your flexibility.
I'm fine with that as well. It's Brenda.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then let me see if I can master. It says I'm screen sharing, and yet I don't believe you can see.
Go back to that.
There you go.
We can.
Okay. Rock on. So I think both let me see. I think all, with the exception of Monique, were here when we created this spreadsheet last Friday. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it looks familiar to us, which is good. And I tried to turn that into something a little more reality-based. That's not the right phrase, but I am not the theoretical tech person. I leave that to the capable hands of everyone else in this group. I am much more of the instructional design person, so I kind of need a real-life context or a conceivable situation. And so I created this checklist for a fictional fish packaging plant in Nome, Alaska, as just a way to help me think about where might we really use these actions in a legitimate way, in an authentic way. Some of them on my list are maybe a little gimmicky, which isn't all bad. Sometimes I think a gimmick is engaging, and so there's some merit to just having something that people are like, hey, that's pretty cool, and so I want to keep going through the checklist. But for the most part, I tried to keep them authentically based.
Yeah, I really appreciated that, Allison. I just want to, this is Brenda, for those who joined our group. I really, really appreciated you doing this, and I thought it was terrific because it really gave me a way of thinking about how to break down tasks in relation to, and to situate it in some sort of, even if it's kind of a constructed, fantastical context, it really helped me think through this scenario a lot better from what we're trying to demo. So thank you.
Good. Well, I'm glad it was. I know it was helpful for me going through it and creating it. So I'm glad that it was able to help others too. And I'm not. This is nothing about what we have to actually produce, but if, as we're going through the checklist, it might give us some grounding as we're deciding which tasks we want to tackle and which ones are maybe better left for another day.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to pull the checklist back. And I guess we could just start at the top and go down the list and say yay or nay. Or if anyone already knows, definitely want this particular task or this particular item, we're going to have time to work on it. It's demoable. It's not too expensive. We could start with ones that we know for sure. Is there a preference in approach?
So what are we saying yay or nay to?
Sorry.
I want to make sure I understand what I'm voting on.
I'm glad you're confirming. Inputs. I should have used the term inputs and outputs. So that, correct me if I'm wrong, but we kind of need to determine this so that you and others can start planning how to filter for the report. Is that right, Dave?
Okay, so this is like we've got this world of things that we could do. How these we're going to try to do by June so that we can use it in our demonstration at the event that caps the end of this.
Exactly. Thank you for saying that much more succinctly.
No, it's just my slow mind trying to catch up, that's all.
Yeah, I think there are a few things in here that we can say pretty clearly that we know that are fairly easy to do, or that were kind of part of the core. So if you want to, while we're here, and we can do it anyway, but it just seems like maybe if you just want to highlight or
Sure.
use highlight on a couple of these cells, and they're not they weren't in any particular order here. So I know one like talk to manager, which is Gnome with NSC tag.
Give me a number.
18, sorry.
18, okay.
Yeah, so that was the one that was really easy. It was kind of what we did with the test, somewhat. It wasn't connected to any app or checklist or anything, but I think that will be something that will be fairly easy to do. Yeah.
Does anyone know where highlight is?
To the right,
Sheets?
right to the right of that.
Oh, that's not self. Oh, okay. All right.
And if you want to, you can put who's working on it. You can put me if you want.
Okay.
I mean, I know Patrick had looked at some of the code, and Dave was wanting to look at it with his NFC tag. So, but yeah, that's easily demoable.
Negligible price, right?
Right,
The
yeah.
NFC tag. Okay.
Time estimate. Time estimate to make it work with the whatever we using HTML or whatever. I actually don't know. I might come back to that one because
Okay.
I almost have to look to see what it entails.
Sure. That makes sense.
I'm going to chip in and say, yeah, let's put the list together, and then we can spend a few days to come up with how long it's going to take to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I know that tap this item to check it off is obviously.
That makes sense. We've already got that one.
Yeah, that's the easiest part, right?
So can I put you for that as well, Matt?
Sure.
By tap, we mean we have a web page with check boxes, and we're going to check that box. Is that what the tap means?
Yeah, just the simplest, like manually checking off that you did something.
Okay.
So yeah, that would just be the basic. And write your observation. I think that was sort of like a free form type of thing. So that should be pretty easy to do, I think.
So in terms of, but for write your observation, we're on line 3 for anyone who maybe didn't see it. That means getting the learner to write the observation is easy. In terms of, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about the instructional design side of things.
No, that's fine.
Getting in like a kind of a usable data from that is maybe a little more obscure. Is that right?
Well, it depends on how we kind of structure everything. So, like, what are we going to see in the report? Is it going to be Bob check this item off the list?
Right. Okay.
Or is he completed XXX, or is it, I think.
But am I right, Dave, that it's a little bit helpful for you to know how we want to get reporting on that item?
Yeah.
Well, since you mentioned my name, I will say I see that probably the next step after we identify which types of items we want to include is to say, okay, how are we going to describe this to the LRS? What is the statement going to look like that gets generated when this action happens?
Okay.
To me, that's it, because that's what I'm going to look for when I write the reporting.
Okay. So if I understand right, you're suggesting we go through inputs and then worry about how it gets to the LRS. Is that right?
Well, how is it going to look like in the LRS? So what do we, how do we know what to query for to pull the thing back in a report? Yes.
Right. Yeah. I kind of have a general idea of where we might put some of these things, but yeah, actually doing it, because what is the activity in this case? Is that they completed checklist item, but where does their freeform text go? Because that's not the activity really. It's got to be somewhere else in the. I'm not sure where.
Right. So like for write an observation, the text of that observation, is that context or is that an extension, or how does that fit into the xAPI statement that gets stored?
Right.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll come back to that.
Because really, in my experience, and I'm still learning a lot of this querying in an LRS, but if something gets buried down as a context element or an extension to some other element, it's not readily available to be queried against. So you can ask for, give me all the things that pertain to this agent, all the things that pertain to this activity, or maybe even this verb. But when you get down to, I want the ones where the person said yes, that becomes problematic in building the get command to pass to the LRS to pull back that level of filtering.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That was helpful for me.
So visit a URL should be fairly easy, I think, to do.
All right. So visit.
Yeah, that's.
We'll say we're going to do visit a URL. Good.
I would say enter a piece of data is probably easier than write an observation.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't remember what.
Yeah, how do you see the difference there, Dave?
Yeah, I was wondering.
I don't know. Iterative data is more structured, I would think. Like there's a list and you choose which one or something. I mean, there's options that you choose which one. Where write an observation is like free-form text. That's what I was thinking, but maybe I'm wrong.
I kind of had that impression too, that a piece of data had a predictable outcome, a predictable answer. It's going to be one of these 4 choices or some numeric value that we can prepare for, if you will.
So maybe clarifying that a bit, I think, sort of select option or, select component or select distractor or something along those lines. So that makes it clearer to hear how you were thinking of it, because that was confusing me.
Yeah, and I kind of wish Megan was here because she wrote that one down originally.
Yeah, I'm okay with understanding it. It's fine. You can leave it, but it just makes it clear to hear how others are thinking about it.
But even if that's not what she originally meant, I think that's good. That's a good enough addition.
Okay.
Having something like a drop down or radio buttons or something where somebody can say, "Oh, these are the available choices. This is what I."
Yep. Like, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So geolocation beacon number 16, such as enter the room. I'm working on it right now, and I haven't got really far, but we did get some beacons, and I just did some really quick tests to see what, if we can detect them and all that. So I was able to see the beacons, and I think integrating it in shouldn't be super hard. Getting it to work exactly like we want maybe further down the road, but I think just the basics of saying, oh, somebody entered a space, I think we could probably do.
Okay. I question the use of the term SCORM. I mean, the whole world of online training is not SCORM, so maybe it's complete an online course or an LMS delivered course or something.
Yeah, I think LMS. Yeah, LMS delivered course. I think that's where we were headed. So that's good.
And that should be trivial, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Like Excel.
Were you trying to drag it?
Okay, sort of. By trivial, you mean not important for us to focus on, or you mean easily done?
I mean, easily done.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's something that
I
almost every LMS that claims xAPI, including my own, could do today. So
okay.
easy.
All right.
Some of the other things I think can be done. So I guess at this point we could just say, what things do we want to make sure are included? What do we want to focus on including? Some of the other things they may be a little more complicated, but if we want to focus on those.
Well, we've got.
You can assign 17 to me, by the way.
Okay, great.
If you'd like to put a name on it.
So we have 7 right now. I feel like a schlub because I don't know how I can really put my name on any of these things, which I'm worried is going to leave a lot of the work to just a couple people. So I'm wondering if we want to take on much more at this point until we kind of see how, let's get a handle on a couple of these and then decide if we want to throw a couple more into the mix. Does that make sense, or is that too cautious?
No.
Well, I think some are dependent upon others. Like I was very interested in, the multiple observers completing a checklist because I see a lot of utility for that. But I'm also still learning some of the issues that Dave is raising about how the data, what can be pulled from the data to see if we could meet that objective.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, just some of the ones you have highlighted now could play into that perhaps at a little later of a point if we're successful at doing all of the highlighted items. Does that make sense? That having individuals check items off could then maybe we could think about scenarios where there are several individuals checking off the same items. So that could happen at a later point. It's just a thought I had.
Can you go further into what you mean by several individuals checking off the same item?
Yeah, it would be great. Like I was using the example. I don't know, Dave, if you were here the last time. It might have been after or before you got on the call, but I was envisioning a scenario like in educational research where, or in this training scenario that perhaps Allison has put together. We'll kind of stick to that. So let's say there was a task where the supervisor had to rate the quality of how this potential employee dealt with customer service, someone on their customer service or something. And, that supervisor rated the employee and how they answered a call, the quality of their response, perhaps, and how friendly they were, how much they listened, whether they solved the problem. Sometimes I would imagine there are several people who would rate that employee's performance in some way. So it's often done in educational research where there's 2 or 3 observers, and it's really important. They're using the same checklist and they're judging or sort of with particular criteria a type of performance. And what's important about that is how much all of their ratings agree. And maybe that's going a little farther, but if xAPI could kind of say, Brenda, Allison, and Dave, used the same checklist and rated this employee's performance for the same phenomenon in similar ways and agreed upon it, that's kind of a big deal. It really would help in observational research processes. So I raised it based on that, and even if we had the statements to be able to say that we each on item 3 rated an employee's ability to listen at a certain level, and we agreed upon it, it would really help in observational research. But I may be overcomplicating things, so without knowing what's feasible on the back end with data. So I'm just throwing it out there that was one that I was kind of engaged in. But I think we have to do it individually first before we can consider several people basically doing the same activity and seeing if there's some agreement amongst that activity.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something that's worth trying to do if we do have time and space for it. even if it is a little bit complicated to figure out. Because I was reading about some of that yesterday and figuring out who's the actor, or how do you decide who's the actor? Like if somebody observes somebody, do you track the person that's doing the observing, or do you do it for the person who's being observed? And sometimes you just do both. It depends on what's most important to you. Like if you don't really care about who's doing the observing, you don't necessarily have to include that statement. But if you want to track both, you know, that Sue observed Bob doing this, but also Bob was rated something or other 4 stars out of 5 by Sue. So
Exactly.
right, you know, so there, yeah. So and then you have another statement that says Bob was rated 3 out of 5 by Jim. So then also there's another statement that says Jim rated 4 out of 5 stars to Bob, or I can't remember the names. I just made up. But
it gets very complicated, nuanced.
Yeah, but you know, once you kind of figure a structure for setting those up, and you know, deciding who am I trying to track, and like in our prototype examples, we may not need to track the observers as much as the person who's being observed. Like maybe you want to focus on Bob being rated 5 by Jim, but and it would probably make the report easier too, because you're only looking at one person's report without having to. But
right.
Yeah, definitely reading some of those things made me think about it a little bit differently, because I hadn't gotten that far into it and thinking, oh yeah, how do you set that up? And some of it is just there's no right or wrong answer. It just depends on what you want out of it at the end.
Right.
If it's not important to get everything, then you don't need to do it. But
And I'm okay if it's, you know, if this is too complicated of a layer for what we're doing, but it's just interesting to think about it with all of you. You know, how might it be done in this case? And we could table it till later discussion till we know we can actually do the rest of this first. So I'm okay either way.
yeah, I think
Whether it's too complicated or not, it's an interesting concept here. Let me pursue this a bit, one step further maybe. So we've got this person, we'll call him Anonymous Bob, and Bob is being rated by Dave and Allison and Brenda. So certainly we can capture statements, Dave rated Bob, and Allison rated Bob, and Brenda rated Bob, but those are 3 separate and somewhat unrelated statements in the LRS. Do we need to somehow be able to generate a statement that Bob completed his evaluation because all 3 of these people have now evaluated him? And if that's the case, and it sounds like it is that an issue of what's called the activity provider, which is the person writing the statements, that application needs to recognize that, oh, I've got this 3rd rating now, and that completes all of the people who were supposed to do this, so now I write this extra statement saying all ratings have been completed? Or is this a part of the reporting that says, you know, when we're pulling reporting, we say, well, we know that this guy is supposed to be rated by Dave, Allison, and Barbara. Have they all been there? Which end does it work on? I'm wondering.
Well, I guess in the way I was thinking about it, it was more, although both are interesting, I think more on the reporting side, and that, you know, being able to, and it was more than just did all 3 check off, you know, Bob's performance. To really make this more complicated, what I would try to do is pull that data to see if Dave, Brenda, and Allison's ratings agreed across the categories. Did we rate Bob in a particular category the same or different? That's really the power of this. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
it does, but it still provides the same question. Remember, there are 2 pieces here. there's the activity provider that's writing statements, and then there's the reporting application that's generating reports based on those statements. I could certainly see where the activity provider application, whatever that is, knows that there's this group of 3 people that need to evaluate this person, and it recognizes, okay, I'm writing a statement now that Dave evaluated this person, and oh, by the way, I've already got statements from Allison and Barbara, so this is now complete now, and the activity provider does that comparison and writes a summary statement, so to speak, into the database. That greatly simplifies the reporting end at the cost of complicating the application provider end. So that's another way of looking at it.
Yeah, and could that summary statement be on each thing that Bob was evaluated on? We could actually say there was a summary statement that all 3 completed rating Bob on category 1, and basically a summary statement saying that Dave and Allison rated Bob a 4, while Brenda rated Bob a 5 on this particular category. Would that be possible or not?
Application provider is just a code. It's just code. So whatever you can do in a computer program, you can certainly do. I mean, the application provider could query the LRS to see what had happened in the past, so that it makes intelligent decisions about what to do in the current context. So that's all doable. Again, it's just a matter of where we put the complication, on the front end that's recording or on the back end that's reporting.
I see. It's interesting because it's kind of a level of agreement you try to strive for, right? So that if 3 observers, get 80% of their observations agree, then it's considered a more reliable instrument. It's considered a more reliable observation, if that makes sense. So that's what I was driving at. But I'm not sure about how to get there and whether we want to get there. But it's interesting to know that
this is sort of an extension, right? This is sort of an extension to the other concept that was brought up earlier about user A did something, and then manager B acknowledges that user A did something. I mean, it's really just an extension of that use case.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, I put down that would be on deck, but maybe in light of this conversation and the interest that item seems to have created, is that something we want to tackle right from the get-go?
Well, I would be happy to try to draft something, maybe something akin within your scenario, Allison, to try to unpack this just a little bit and run it past Dave and see if it might be something, that if maybe, I don't know, Dave, if you would agree to sort of try to go back and forth on it to sort of lay out how I would see it, and then you lay out kind of how you would see it working from the back end or the front end.
I would be happy to have conversations about it. I'm hesitant to commit myself to too awfully much, but I'm certainly willing to talk about where we might go.
So that's good enough for me, and then we can determine, Allison, whether it's too complicated to address or whether we can kind of boil it down to something that's feasible.
Sure. So I don't know if you noticed how I tried to phrase that on the spreadsheet. Does that capture both of your commitment level at this point?
I'm looking for it.
No, line 11.
Thank you. There we go. Yep.
Okay. So we have 4 of our 7 have been have been volunteered for. Should we think about rows 3 through 5, or should we just leave it with where we are and kind of get to work on these before we tackle any more?
As far as line 5, there are at least one and probably multiple little pieces that are commonly referred to as bookmarklets that are out there. I know Rusticy has one that you basically just drop a piece of JavaScript code into your web page, and it will do this visit a URL for you. So that's pretty much done, other than write the web page and drop a bookmarklet in it, I think. I've never done it, but I've heard about it. So
Yeah, I think I tested
anybody
it out.
else have any?
I
Yeah,
tested
go ahead,
it
please.
a while back, and yeah, it works pretty well. The only thing I don't know how to do, and maybe you know, or possibly Rob, who is I don't think on this call today, but is the authentication part. So if you were, say, on a browser on some random computer, how does it know? Because the way I did it before on the test was I hard-coded who the person was, because I didn't know any other way, and that's actually the way the Rusticy one just worked out of the box. I know there's probably some way to do it. Maybe you could just have a field in the bookmarklet itself that says, "Who are you?" and you just put in your credentials there.
So
Yes, LRS authentication has been a long-term boogeyman in this whole thing. I spent the first 2 design cohorts working on the concept of an LRS proxy that kind of hides that, but we never really got it off the ground, and it's still in the back of my head. But I do understand that a huge percentage of the stuff that's being done and displayed right now puts all of the authentication on the client end, and I'm not happy about that. But I know that's the direction that's happening. And for this particular proof of concept project, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I think we unfortunately may have to be kind of stuck with it. But if I know Rob, Megan had talked to Rob a little bit about it, and he had some ideas about deep linking in the LMS or the LRS, or I guess it was the LMS in this case that he was talking about. But I don't know that much about it. But he had some ideas, so at some point I might hit him up for that.
this is a really picky-uni thing, but if visit a URL and web bookmarklet are essentially the same, I'm going to delete row 8, or are they different enough that we want to keep both?
I can think of a use where in your checklist you actually have a URL, just a link.
Oh, okay.
In your checklist, so as you're going down, it says visit this.
There
So you visit it right there on your device. I don't know how,
Okay.
but maybe it's like watch this video, and as soon as they click it, it sends a statement, or however we set it up, to mark that complete. But then it also jumps them to that link. So it could be it could be different.
Okay. And I know when I was.
There were.
I'm sorry, Dave.
Go ahead.
When I was creating.
I was just going to say I am going to be quiet now, and I will take my turn next. I'm sorry for stepping on you.
Oh, my facilitation skills are a little rusty, aren't they? When I was putting the GNOME checklist together, I was kind of thinking about visit a URL as like a YouTube that would pop up when triggered by something, and Bookmarklet had been explained to me, but I still didn't fully get it, so I was just thinking like, all right, you watch this video on how to skin a fish, and that's it, and you're kind of, I just thought like, we're just going to take the learner's word that they were the person who watched this video at this time, and we'll just go with it for now.
Okay, my comment was that visiting a URL that offers a video is one thing, and as you said, that doesn't prove that they actually watched the video. In past cohorts, there have been two different efforts. One was integrating within a video player so that we actually get statements from the video player that the video was actually watched and even the extent to which it was watched and other details. There's even an xAPI community of practice, which I'm not a member of, but I know that it's out there on that particular problem. There was another team in the last cohort that had integrated into one of the more open source ebook readers, where it would actually track page turns and all kinds of stuff inside of an ebook reader and allow you to track that information to an LRS. So that work has been started and is well progressed. If they would be willing to share, those are other things that could be kicked in here as far as actually tracking that someone launched the video or that someone launched the ebook and whatever.
Well, I guess it goes back to what is our goal here? Do we want to really focus on ensuring that the learner has done what they were told to do, or do we want to focus on getting a checklist that's sort of completed and usable on the surface? And I don't. At least to me, that's what it's at. Is do we want to ask those other groups for information? If so, I think that tells us that we're looking at a focus more on authentication, or we want to just.
I mean, we could.
Okay, I will say after saying that, I agree that it's out of scope. Maybe we want to list these things as things we would like in a finished product, but not really being tackled by this particular cohort.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I would agree. Why not? Let's not reinvent the wheel if someone else is tackling that in depth.
Okay.
So if you want to, like, visitor URL can be one thing. So yeah, now that you have that cell selected, if you want to put visitor URL, just track clicking the link. Reword that later. Track, click the link. So that's the simplest. And then another one which is like watch a video. Start another line for watch a video and then track interaction. Like, do they skip ahead? Do they actually finish?
Okay.
I can give you a real world use case on this visitor URL. Some of our customers are state government agencies, and they'll have a training course, which is a standard old LMS page turner training course, but embedded within that training course, on one of the pages, they'll have something that says, now click this link to go out to the state's website on guidelines for blah, blah, blah. And right now, we have no way of tracking that. I mean, they display it, but we have no way of proving that the person actually did it.
Right.
So that's where this would come in.
So do you think is it too narrow to say watch a video and track interaction, or should it just be visit a site and track the interaction on a site? Do you think that's? Am I narrowing it down too much if I say video?
I think they're two separate things. Okay. I mean, did I visit a site and interact with it? Did I launch a video and interact with it? I think they're two separate things.
Okay.
We have about 4 minutes left, so I kind of want to just get a feel for how people are doing. My sense of this meeting is that we have 7 really solid inputs that we want to try to work on, and that we've got some people already stepping up to take on those tasks. Then we've got a couple things that seem interesting to us as a secondary tier, if we have time, in terms of meeting our requirements for being demoable, pretty affordable. We chose wisely. We'll work on time estimates once we've all had a time to go back and regroup and think about what will really be involved. Another issue that we want to keep in mind for the future, or maybe Dave can start thinking about it now, is what kind of statement it comes out of that item and is sent to the LRS. And we haven't done anything for outputs, which I'm wondering if we want to do at least one output from our list, because I think, I could be wrong, but I think we wanted to show the LRS to app communication on both sides, both the app sending things to the LRS, also the LRS kind of sending messages out to the world. Am I right on that? Or no?
Yes, I think that a completion report, basically a status report on level of completion against the checklist, is, in my mind, the primary output.
Okay.
I would agree.
Dave, can I take the liberty of putting your name there?
Yes.
Thank you. We'll make that also something for this first round. So, did I miss anything as I kind of tried to hit the high notes there?
I think you covered it pretty well.
Okay. So the next question is, do we want to meet on Friday? We have occasionally. It's not a meeting that we all agreed to up front, but sometimes we've had them. Should we try for another one in a couple days? Or would we need more time to really kind of work on whatever we just talked about, and Friday's not enough time for turnaround?
I would say we need a couple of days of separation between meetings.
Okay.
So that means probably Friday or Monday, and personally, Fridays are better for me than Mondays. But that's just my personal preference.
Yeah, I need to put out there that next week I am going on vacation, so I won't be engaged in meetings next week, but I'd be happy to try, given some space, to think about the one element that my name is next to, certainly prior to that.
Okay. Maybe I'll send out a poll to the community, Friday versus Monday, and we'll just see what majority says.
Sounds good?
Okay, great. I did not.
I also want to say I appreciate your example checklist. The thing that it brought to mind mostly to me is there are different types of checklist items, and that was something that I hadn't thought of. So I'm not going to take the time to have that conversation here, but that was the big takeaway that I got from seeing, and it helped a lot. So thank you very much.
Good. I'm glad it could help the conversation. Meg is really good, and she can take meeting notes while she is in the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I make no claims to be Meg, so I will type up some summary notes and probably get that up later this afternoon.
That's great, Allison. Thanks so much for
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everyone.
You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Have a good one.
Bye.